I'm Richard Waugh, Vice President Corporate Development at Zycus, and I'll be hosting today's session where we're going to talk about meeting your P2Ps and Qs. P2P, there are a lot of Ps there. Pay. But as the old saying goes, mind both your Ps and Qs. So today we're going to focus on the Q aspect, if you will, in quality, and the fact that to roll out a quality P2P program, a change management focus is really required. Let me review for you today agenda for the session. I'll briefly introduce you to a bit about Zycus, but quickly move into kind of the baseline for the state of P2P adoption. Many people came on in what we'll call the first generation of Procure-to-Pay around the turn of the century, the millennium, and kind of 15 years in, where are we today? And spoiler alert, there are a lot of gaps, and that creates a need for the next generation, Procure-to-Pay. I'll describe what that entails, and I'll do a little bit of a kind of another Q. How do you quantify the opportunity for Procure-to-Pay and building a very dollar kind of business case that will pass muster with the CFO in the organization? And I'm going to bring on a customer of Zycus, Jawbone. Pamela Low will join us for the second half and take us through a case study of really transforming or actually in some cases we're leapfrogging that first generation Procure-to-Pay as a younger company and coming on with the next generation of Procure-to-Pay. And the fact they paid close attention to the reality that the P2P changes everything. So some technology initiatives, including those sort of in the upstream procurement that are mainly focused on your own functional organization, things like spend analytics or sourcing or contract management, for example, Procure changes everything in that it could and perhaps should impact every employee at some point in the process. Anyone in the organization could potentially be an occasional requisitioner, shopper, an approver, or have a reason to interact with your Procure-to-Pay system. So the scope of change management is much broader than really any other application you might be considering. So Jawbone in particular really focused on how to address change management to ensure adoption and traction when it comes to P2P. And please log in any questions that you have. So time permitting, at the end, we'll address as many of those questions as we can. So the agenda for today, again, my name is Richard Waugh, VP of Corporate Development at Zycus. I won't through my bio. You can read it. So it's in there, give you a sense that I've been around for an awful long time and I've seen a lot of things change in the market and excited about the next wave of growth and development as we approach this next generation of Procure-to-Pay. And my presenter today, Pamela Low, is the Indirect Procurement Manager. And she's a dynamic, you're going to find that out in just a few minutes, a global management professional, broad base of experience across indirect and direct procurement, strategic sourcing, risk management, types of functions, and has worked with multiple other functions in the business, including IT procurement, risk management, manufacturing, legal, and HR, for example. And so very experienced using P methodologies to work in that cross-functional fashion and applying agile concepts, strategic sourcing process, etc. And she's here to share that wealth of experience today and specifically talk to you about the great progress that has been made at Jawbone into the next generation of Procure-to-Pay. So just quickly about Zycus, we're going to focus on Procure-to-Pay today, which in our model here is sort of the blue components of the more operational or transactional aspects of procurement, requisitioning, accessing electronic catalogs, creating a purchase order, and ultimately also implementing the second P of Procure-to-Pay, the payment side through invoice matching and management, etc. Is, though, part of a full integrated source-to-pay suite that includes the gold modules here that are more upstream, more strategic procurement, things like spend analytics, like sourcing, managing then contracts and supplier life cycle management, both onboarding and supplier performance measurement, and then ultimately measuring where the performance counts the most at the bottom line, tracking financial savings. So yeah, a quick snapshot of where Zycus is positioned. A little bit from an external perspective, Gartner produces their Magic Quadrant on the sourcing suite vendors, and so I participated in that process over the years, and just a quick timeline here shows how Zycus has moved pretty quickly here in 2015 to actually the top of Leaders Quadrant, rated overall, and big, importantly, I think, highest in customer satisfaction, because that's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, is customers that are not only deploying these technologies, but getting through adoption and traction, realizing the ROI that was built into their business case to justify the investment in the first place. So significant endurance then in terms of the Gartner Magic Quadrant positioning. So what to do, though, is sort of set the stage for Procure-to-Pay utilizing a benchmark study that we've conducted, and it's a broad-based survey. Over 150 organizations globally responded to this survey, so very statistically valid. The initial question that we wanted to survey was a great starting point. Let's find out what people are actually using from a technology standpoint. And frankly, this was a little bit surprising to me. As I mentioned, e-procurement first sort of came to the fore around the turn of the century, the millennium, Y2K, if you will. So we're 15 years or more into this process, and I actually would have expected, for instance, a higher penetration of the first example that we have, organic P2P solutions or best of breed platforms like a Zycus or other competitor products in the market, but it's actually less than a quarter, 24%. So the permanent method of enabling, from a technology standpoint, the requisition and order, invoicing, so procure-to-pay process is still the incumbent ERP. Enterprise resource planning platforms that are geared to doing a lot of other things as well, whether it's, finance or manufacturing and those kinds of things. So for the most part, procurement has been sort of to make do what was available in the ERP module. 40% is still the highest penetration rate. There's still legacy or homegrown systems out there, about 70%. But, as surprising as the low penetration of best of breed to me was the fact that there are as many as about a quarter again that say we're still completely manual. We really haven't addressed the process from an automation standpoint yet. And I have to presume that the 5% and other is probably some form of a manual process as well, because there are only so many potential options out there. So again, a little bit surprising that this cycle, which is fairly mature from a technology standpoint, 15 or so, that there isn't more of a penetration of a true best of breed. But I think that means there's a lot of opportunity as well. The other thing we want to establish is, okay, regardless of what kind of tools people have been using, what are the results that they're getting when it comes to Procure-to-Pay across a number of different dimensions. And, one of the most important from the value proposition and business standpoint is spend compliance. When you put together the business case, that tends to be the biggest gap, the biggest driver, the big generator of return on investment. Looked across a number of dimensions and said, what percentage of your indirect spend, which is really where Procure-to-Pay is targeted, can you show that you've got, compliant pricing, meaning that the POs that are generated agree with the contracted pricing, that it follows a compliant process, the right people have signed off on a PO before it goes out the door, that the actions, once they're posted, are accurately coded and classified so that you get real line item spend visibility. So there are factors here. And what jumps out at me is that the high watermark is 50%, that we get half the time those orders that result through the requisitioning process are actually compliant with the contracted pricing. So we expect a lot better, and the performance kind of degrades from there. So it's, it's trend down into the 45, 40%. That the difference we're saying, our ability to address our indirect spend, it's only about 40% of the available indirect spend, which is again pretty low, and the ability to ensure that acquisitioners are buying only from preferred suppliers is again low at 40%. So it tells you we're less than half the way there. Again, looking at it as the glass is half full, it means there's a lot of opportunity still on the table, even for those organizations that have gone early and first generation Procure-to-Pay, but may still have additional value to be captured. The aspect that we look at for Procure-to-Pay, because again, they tend to be justified based on a harder dollar savings and spend compliance, or kind of more of a transactional or process efficiency metric based on the order accuracy, in this case, purchase orders. So we asked, you look at the POs that you raise in your organization, what percentage of those are probably approved? And at least in this case, 72%. So almost 3 out of 4 are at least approved by the person that needs to sign off. But then the performance starts to degrade at that point, because those POs aren't necessarily correct on the first pass, only about 2/3, meaning about 1/3 of those are still going to require some kind of rework, because even if they were approved appropriately, that doesn't mean that they have the correct ship-to, bill-to information, that they have the right GL information for accounting purposes, that they're assigned to the correct category code for spend analytics purposes. So again, that performance is around 2 out of 3 are correct on the first pass, and therefore the PO is able to be matched to the invoice on the first pass, that it hits the GL code for accounting purposes. And the lowest performance here is that the transactions themselves are classified and coded to your spend taxonomy. So that really thwarts the efforts of the procurement organization to leverage that transactional spend data for strategic sourcing purposes. That's, just barely better than half of the time is it classified correctly. So that's clearly a big gap in terms of order accuracy in most Procure-to-Pay programs. The other thing that tends to lag here is user adoption. So there's kind of a distribution across. Certainly some folks are hitting their targets of, let's say, 80% or better. That's about 19% of our survey population, but the midpoint, the average, still hovers around only 50%. So again, it's potentially a very large footprint in the respect that any employee could potentially be an occasional user of P2P. But most of these programs, even those that have been in place for a number of years now, tend to hit the wall, if you will, at about 50% of the targeted users come on board. And that really goes back to the fact that, to get non-procurement professionals a system like this, it really has to be easy to use and intuitive. And, quite frankly, most of the first generation products that many have experienced just didn't have that instinctual intuitive kind of user interface. User adoption is still a big issue and of opportunity for improvement based on our benchmark study. And all of the detailed findings, by the way, you can download it from our website. It's a pretty extensive study, and it's good to know what's going on overall in the industry from a benchmark standpoint to be able to compare yourself and see where your opportunities are. Clearly, there was no change. So just to sort of set the contrast between first generation, the before, and today, in the first generation, users were content with the enterprise-style user interface and experience because they maybe didn't have much choice. But the demand today is how do we get a consumer-like interface and shopping experience, much like we might have with Amazon or Google, that kind of thing, into a corporate or enterprise environment. The other thing is, in the first generation, most of the P2P tools focused on catalog purchasing only, those standard commodity products like stationery and IT products or some MRO that frankly only constitute a small portion of total indirect spending for most organizations, because the non-catalog that includes more of the services spend or the non-standard products represent the vast majority. So in today's model, it's about using a guided buying model to close that compliance blind spot to address the off-catalog as well as the catalog-based requisition. And from an adoption standpoint, it's changing the model from sort of peaking at about 50%, and because the tools were difficult to use, requiring rigorous training, to how do I get to 80 to 90% with minimal training required for those casual users. And let's face it, any of us who may have bought something from Amazon or another consumer shopping site never went through a training program to complete our requisition and receive our order. So the last piece is the fact that I shared before. Average performance is saying only 56% of our transactions through Procure-to-Pay have accurate line item level spend visibility. So in next generation model, it's about, and the reason that they don't is because in a process driven by end user requisitioners, sometimes they make mistakes, and it's not their fault. They don't really know. They're not experts in how to assign the right commodity code, or they may not know what the right GL code is. Today's model, it's about systematizing that activity using artificial intelligence, which we done at Zycus, to take the work and the keystrokes out of the process for end users to make sure that the byproduct, the output of Procure-to-Pay, is accurate line item level spend visibility on those transactions. So the comparts, I won't spend much time here, but certainly the Zycus model, it's addressing both Ps, the PIS or e-procurement on the front end with acquisition, catalog management, and PO processing, and then the second P, the payment side, with e-invoicing, getting rid of the paper in that process, digitizing the invoice, automating the matching process, the three-way match with the PO and the goods received, to accelerate the invoice approval and begin to take advantage of early pay or dynamic discounting opportunities to drive savings. So that's what the scope of the Procure-to-Pay solution is. In terms of putting together the value proposition from a corporate standpoint, this model that I mentioned of guided buying, so making it easy for the user to do the right thing, buy from the approved contracted vendors, following the appropriate approval chains and workflow, is going to drive compliant spend and a compliant process for the total indirect spend should be the goal here, and not just the sole catalog of standard commodity products, but any of the indirect spend. And in the process, make sure that the guided buying to users, again, makes it easy for them to do the right thing, presenting them only with your approved suppliers, by them through what's the right buy pay channel, as in who needs to approve this. Is it something that should be settled via an invoice or a P card, or be. So all of which is done to really simplify that user experience, get to the 80 to 90% adoption rate, and process start to move performance to world class and get the benefits out of the system, which is that real-time spend visibility at the most granular line item level. That's what's in it for the enterprise, for the business. It's also very important to create that value proposition for your end users. Now, they want to do things that help the company, the organization, but behavior being what it is, it's also what's in it for me. How does this make my life easier? And it starts with search, and the focus on making it fast, first of all. Every in your organization has in the more important things to be doing than raising a requisition and getting a PO. They just want to get the good services that they require to do their job. So it fast starts with the search. And the limitation of many search tools historically has been a keyword search. As we all know, even from searching at Google or other sites, the results that come back could often include a number of extraneous or irrelevant results. So, for instance, if I did a keyword search on laptops, I'm going to get lots of laptops, but I'm going to get laptop bags and stands and screens and whatever that I'm not really interested in. So one of the things that the guided buying model does really changes that to a category-based search. Take there's natural language search term, convert it to the appropriate category so that when the search engine goes out, it's going to back only those category relevant results. So I'm going to get only laptops and only the ones that have been approved and contracted for me to requisition. So make it fast, make it fun. They're looking for a rich internet shopping experience, being able to see the image, compare products side by side, look at detailed specs or attachments or reviews. So make it fun so that they can easily and quickly find what they need and give them the kind of experience that's going to make them want to come back, and where the traction is. Make it easy, and again, it's not just about the catalog buy, but in negation for a non-catalog requisition, give the user, instead of a blank free-form requisition, which is kind of a free-for-all, give them a category-specific guided form that's pre-configured with a wizard interface that walks them through just to specify the attributes required for that particular service or product requisition. So a one-stop shop, regardless of the type of indirect product service that I'm trying to requisition. And at the final point, make it right. And this is a point of ease of use as well. When I get to the checkout screen, don't make me enter a 15-digit account string and a commodity code and ship to, bill to instructions. Default all of that information, systematize it, and automate it so that the checkout is as easy as the search, complete my process quickly and efficiently, and the result is a compliant and accurate transaction. Focus pretty quickly here on a different Q, the quality aspect and change management, but I want to share with you just sort of a methodology for quantifying this, because to get started on these initiatives, it still requires, in this case, in most organizations, that can get the sign-off finance organization or whatever process you follow that shows a justifiable return on investment. And the good news is that this is a very quantifiable project, probably more tangible than almost any other program that you consider, and potentially generates a higher rate of return than any program you can look at. And that's because there are a number of value drivers that apply to most organizations. So this is a list for the Hackett group that does a broad-based benchmarking and analysis of the procurement function, among others. They've listed the fact that there's value in companies driving adoption to preferred supplier contracts. There's the ability to even focus on demand management, not just spend management. So by having in-depth visibility to requisitions and budgets, that those budget owners can make decisions before commitments are made to defer or potentially deny spending if it's in excess of the available budget or there's initiatives underway. So it's not spend management, but demand management. At the end of the process, getting quality line level visibility to drive strategic sourcing decisions and increase effectiveness there. By speeding up the invoice processing cycle on the back end, being able to do better working capital management through days payable outstanding optimization, either taking advantage of prompt payment discounts or in some cases extending payment cycles to maximize working capital. So lots of opportunities here, and I won't go through the gory details here of the Hackett benchmarks, but these are the most relevant metrics for a business case for P2P is, more spend under management with compliant with preferred contracted supplier agreements, and then capturing a higher cost savings as a percentage of spend. And the Hackett benchmarks differentiate between world-class performance, so typically those organizations that have world-class or best-of-breed procure-to-pay technology as well as world-class process. The performance speaks for itself, that the world-class as opposed to the average or peer group overall is saving more than twice as much. And when it comes to transactional process efficiency, it's 4 times less to generate a PO and better than 50% less to cost per invoice. So lots of different metrics, and I'll just kind of show you a quick picture of how this can be expressed in overall business case that tracks a line item level. Where are the savings coming from? What's the potential opportunity? And can really enable that discussion with the CFO, with finance, and other decision makers in the business to justify P2P program. That's where we are today in P2P from a benchmark standpoint. A little bit about the other Q, the quantification. But I want to transition and invite my co-presenter today, Pamela Low, to share with you a little bit about Jawbone and how their creation and next generation approach to procure-to-pay with quality as they focused on change management as they drove the initiative. Pamela. I think maybe on mute. Just waiting to see if she's able to join.
No.
Hi, Pamela. Welcome to our audience here, and I think anxious to hear the Jawbone story.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure being here. And I want to give you a little bit of background history about Jawbone. We are located in San Francisco, California. We are in over 40 countries around the world. We are an absolute world leader in consumer technology, devices. Hopefully, you one on the phone or attending this conference has utilized or is utilizing our products and know the joy of them. With this, we have an array of wonderful new products that are hitting the market that will help all of us, live better, healthier, and more meaningful lives. We have a saying at Jawbone, it is the Internet of You. Meaning that all of the things that we do in regards to health and actions, right, Technology will be able to give us some really good ideas and recommendations, again, on living a more productive and healthy life. Okay, I'm ready for the next slide. Just to give a little bit more detail regarding our product line, Era, this is one of our first products that we hit the market with, and this was about 15 years ago. We actually won a contract with the U.S. government. They were so impressed with Jawbone's ability in regards to the Era headset to eliminate background noise, and this was extremely important for our men and women in the battlefield, making sure that their communications were as seamless as possible. This is how Jawbone initially got started, by winning a government contract, and this is 15 years ago, with the U.S. government for its wonderful noise assessor technology. Okay. And after Era hit the market, then came our wonderful Jambox. Hopefully some of you on the phone here have listened to the sound quality. It's absolutely amazing what comes out of the devices. We have the mini Jambox and the big Jambox, and again, the sound quality is just explosive, and it's absolutely amazing, the technology that was produced and comes out of these units. Cool thing, also, this is all wireless technology. So again, that is you can take your music with you, your wearable devices with you, anywhere, and of course not have to be plugged into anything. Now that I completed the Jawbone introduction, I wanted to share with you, as Richard mentioned, we went live with our P2P implementation this past January, and we are coming from an environment where there was a paper process, right, in regards to having requisitions submitted and created. So no technology whatsoever. So automation was key, and also refining P2P channels in regards to how act was taking place or would take place within Jawbone. There was many avenues prior, and I'm happy to say that we have streamlined those avenues down to two, which I'll speak to later on. And one of the best features of the P2P product is guided procurement, which helps the requisitioners greatly. Like Richard mentioned earlier, requisitioners really just want to get their POs processed and their POs out to the marketplace. Again, this is not the top-of-mind item, right? They're looking at the things that are on their evaluations that they need to accomplish. And, of course, a tool, so P2P from Zycus, is a great asset for making that happen. Okay. This slide gives you a bit of an overview in regards to the Jawbone profile before we implemented P2P. The left-hand side is a list of the information collected from the Hackett group in regards to best practices. And as you can take a look over to the right-hand side of the slide, again, as I mentioned earlier, we had a paper-based process. We did not have a standard approval flow. People were very creative in how PRs were submitted and how POs were getting out to the market. Again, with that, we had electronic catalogs in place, and there was no automation. So that speaks to the other points in regards to no PO automation. And in technology sector, you will find, especially new companies in the marketplace, that the technology is the base driver. A lot of wonderful creative people highly educated. They have a burst of energy, burst of concepts. They want to get these concepts and items out to the marketplace, and they just want to go. So with this, on the back end, it has caused an environment for where contracts may not be in place where they should be. So I can move to the next slide. And so after implementing P2P, I'm really happy to say that we have addressed a number of items. So via automation, we have a full requisition and PO process automated. It allows for excellent visibility to the PRs that are being created and also for the approval process. And with this being said, our requisitors now have the power, the capability to see where their PRs are at in the approval process. And so a very consistent process for understanding when their POs are actually released and content is shared out to the supply base. Speaking of approval process, approval flows, I must say this is this is my favorite feature of the tool because it helps so many people. It addresses the need for the employee base. And you must excuse me, I'm getting over a cold here. It addresses the employee base need in order to understand where their PRs are at in the approval flow. Also, through proper mapping regarding the employee's reporting structure, department codes, we now have a very credible source for making sure that the right people have ability and that the right people are approving the spend. And again, this, as I said earlier, is my favorite feature because it has taken out so much uncertainty, so much confusion, and just a lot of unnecessary heavy lifting that we were performing at Jawbone prior to implementing our P2P solution. With this, we also have electronic catalog deployed. This makes it much easier for the organization to focus in on products that Jawbone wants them to be procuring and keeps out the information that the company is in a position that we would rather employees not be engaged with. The guided procurement forms, which have been great, we actually have it set up for a marketing organization. As we all know, marketing has special needs, and we're happy to say that with the guided procurement forms, that allows for our marketing team to see basically an electronic PR form that meets their procurement needs. And it provided them the details for them to track their spend with their suppliers, which is a little bit different outside of marketing function. So the P2P solution has enabled us to be more steadfast with no pay. And it's this. Everyone at Jawbone truly understands that without a PO, we will not, be making any sort of payment. And so, again, the electronic system, the solution, allows for refinement of that. It allows for better tracking and communication of it, and also allows for a better support of the overall program. Okay. This is a screenshot of the P2P solution. In the upper left-hand corner is where you log in the item that you are, in need of, that you're wishing to write a PR form, and the item would pop up. And seeing there's a lot of math and work that is done with cross-functional partners to ensure that their buying needs for particular functions, BUs, product lines, right, are addressed and accommodated for, and also working with our finance and AP organization, making sure that the correct categories and GL accounts are mapped to items. If you look at the lower section of the screen, again, very simple information that is asked for, which allows for requisitors to put in their content and be able to move through the process. In the upper right-hand corner are some examples of some of the guided forms, e-forms that are available. Again, this is customized to a particular category, business unit, product line, what have you, functional group. But again, makes it easier for them to do the type of buying that they do and obtain the content that the company utilizes or needs for tracking. Again, here's my favorite. This is the overflow. And the reason why it's my favorite is because prior to this, there was so much, emails going back and forth, seeking approvals, changing hard copies to emails, and then submitting the paperwork into the buyers for the buyers to read and submit into our back office system, which is NetSuite. So a lot of manual activity. Again, just a lot of time wasted trying to locate the appropriate people and, basically chase them around the globe depending on where they were at. So this is a big deal, having the approval process automated, providing the appropriate visibility to persons that need to know, such as if you have a product line manager or category manager, particular commodity, you want to ensure, for example, IT, that the IT category manager is aware, right, of the spend, making sure that it is being spent with your preferred suppliers, if you have a preferred supplier program in place. And also, of course, if you're a product line manager and something that is being procured will hit your product line, which you're responsible for, again, giving you visibility to that. And then also make sure that the finance organization, that your finance business partner who's covering a particular BU or functional group, right, approves that spend up front. Because then what's the use of going through an approval process only to find out that maybe you may be short with your budgeting? Our buyers at the end of the process to ensure that all of the appropriate attachments and are populated completely, such as contracts, quotes, statements of work. And again, if there's something that is found to be incomplete, the buyers have the opportunity to turn that information to the person or group that needs to make the clarification. Okay, and also another thing, you go back one slide, just to point out too that we're working with Zycus and setting up this flow for your organization. Creation of the workflow is made quite easy by this drag and drop feature that they would put forth in working with their clients, and to model out the flows that's appropriate for your organization. Okay, we can move to slide. Excuse me. And this is a detailed, actually we even have a more detailed one, but this is a second level detailed approval process flow that we're utilizing here at Jawbone. Again, with the utilization of cross-functional partners, business unit partners, accounting and finance, making sure that we had all of the appropriate needs accounted for. This is truly a group effort, making sure that we defined an approval process that we utilize throughout the company. The approval process is the same for every BU, every product line, every function. Of course, the people involved in a particular flow is different, of course, based on the management reporting structure. And HR, of course, is a big part of this because the HR tables, which show the employee's position, whether a manager, non-manager, director, VP, will determine the actual flow for that particular group. Okay? And another flow in regards to the invoice approval process. And the things here that we're really excited about is the three-way match, which would require which is required in order for an invoice to be fully approved. Working very closely with our finance and accounting team, and as I mentioned earlier, we were very paper manual-based process. So for our accounting team, what had been happening is that all of the invoices that had been flowing into Joan via email, via U.S. mail, there were a staff of individuals who were keying those products and actually rekeying them into our back-end system. And I imagine that is a highly laborious process and thus very time-consuming. So one of the features that we are most excited about, having an automated process that allows for a three-way match to take place. And very shortly here soon, we will be implementing our supplier portal, which will allow for our supplier base to submit their invoices directly into a portal, and for that three-way matching process, again, to take place automatically. So again, all of the keystrokes that our AP team is currently facing will be dissolved here very shortly. Thank you. One of the things, too, regarding change management, which, as most of us know, is key to any implementation, where it is software or non-software based, any type of project, is the change management piece. Because as human beings, right, don't like to change. And so if all human beings like to focus on the things that they are directly responsible for. So therefore, change management piece, to get that adoption, the stakeholder engagement is critical. So with this segment of the presentation, we'll talk about stakeholder engagement, communication plan, formal training, and also informal training. Great. With this stakeholder engagement, we made sure that we had all of the appropriate, after we had all of the BUs, functional groups, product line groups, employees, and also, of course, the procurement team highly engaged in making sure that we understand their particular wants versus needs, and making sure that we were able to model these out with their participation, right? Because, again, each group, whether it was our requisitors, our suppliers, IT, or procurement group, right, each had a different platform in regards to the expectations of the tool. So we had multiple opportunities, right, to collect their inputs and actually made this process a part of our procurement council discussion, which is where we have all of our representation at this council. We're able to get great stakeholder input and make sure that the flexibility, right, to adjust to environments and requirements have a platform or go-to group, right, to make sure that that flexibility was able to be executed. Great. This is a sample of a week. Actually, there's, 5 weeks there. Communication plan. I am a big supporter of making sure that we communicate early regarding any type of program or process that I'm involved with, and software implementations are no exception. You want to make sure that you share with your employee base as early as possible, as soon as the decision is made that you're going to be moving forward, that this is coming, right? I started that drumbeat, as I say it. I talked a long time ago that making sure that you have a consistent communication flowing out will, again, allow for your user base to fill up to the program, and that's a little bit, there's more ownership towards it. So communication, when you decide to move forward with it, to let employee base know that it's coming, and that these are the benefits that you will be facing, and then communication in regards to letting your employee base know the status and the advancement of the project. Then when it gets down to it's time to implement and roll out, making sure that you've had communication in regards to training opportunities, and training opportunities being segmented by role. Again, not all approvers may want to attend a requisitioner training, but with that being said, making all training opportunities available for all bases. At Jawbone, we did have several VPs attend the requisitioning training. They wanted to have that understanding in regard to how the process operated from end to end. Okay. As mentioned earlier, big component, big supporter of communication, and that communication surrounded formal training and also informal training, but we'll talk about the formal training here. Again, for requesters, information regarding the purchase requisitioning with sure people understood that they have the opportunity to purchase and or services. So the system definitely provides insights and inroads, right, to accommodate both areas of buying. Also with this, when it comes to the receiver, making sure that our receivers were educated that they need to go into the system, right, and receive their goods or services once that good has been delivered to their specifications per their statement of work, and so, of course, per the services actually being performed, per their contracts and statement of works. So making sure that people understood when creating the requisitions, identifying whether it is a goods or a service. Also, one point that I didn't cover, there's a lot of flexibility in making sure that your end users have the opportunity to select, of course, delivery locations, a lot of which are already preloaded on where your firm will deliver, which is delivers to most often. But also with that, the capability to address those, modify any delivery arenas, of course, per your particular business needs. Okay. For the informal training, again, I wanted to make sure that we touch on every path possible to make sure that we provided different avenues for various employees to receive content. We have a very broad employee base, globally located, utilizing different methods of learning. So with that, we have the technology bar established, which is pretty cool. In the cafe area, right, people can come up and get their coffee, and at the same time, have a chat with one of our buyers, right, to ask questions and to receive informal training regarding the technology. We also had the Drop By and Learn session, which, again, we had focused around the campus, allow for impromptu learning, and then these Drop By and Learn sessions were communicated throughout the company so they would know the date, times, and locations. We had videos and cheat sheets posted at our page or web page, again, to make sure that all learning content was available to our employees. And of course, we have our P2P support email node set up to allow for direct access for gaining assistance. Okay. I think at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Richard.
Thanks, Pamela. And you've really covered all the points in this sort of summary as you looked at the challenges with the old system really having more of a paper-based manual process without the approval workflows defined. And the objectives, of course, were to, away from paper, create true visibility and transparency throughout the process that then becomes measurable. You can track your performance against your key performance indicators. And the approach that was taken that you outlined was engaging stakeholders early, communicating, making sure that the requirements of all the stakeholders were built into the solution that ultimately deployed, and the business impact has been to automation, being able to implement those compliance routines like no PO, no pay, and getting the suppliers on board in the process. I think the feedback has been the suppliers appreciate the use and automation from their side as well. So some of the next steps I know that you have planned are having deployed first in North America, rolling in Europe and China this year as well. Integrate more of the budgets to get that visibility to and incorporating direct procurement as well into the process, and moving back upstream in the process, deploying strategic procurement tools like spend analytics, sourcing, contract management, and supplier management. So that really is a folks' sense of where Jawbone is headed. Certainly, that next generation focus, technology company using a hot technology for procurement. So closing today, I just wanted to share with you what I think is a great opportunity for anyone. Look at current P2P infrastructure, trying to identify where they are from a benchmarking standpoint and what the opportunity is. So a lot of metrics here, 2 pages of them actually, that the Hackett group tracks, but shows you how to measure operational and performance across Procure-to-Pay in cost and cycle time, in accuracy, in productivity, electronic enablement, cash flow management, and stakeholder feedback and stakeholder value. So the opportunity here is at Zycus, we've partnered with Hackett to make available a free, no-risk assessment that only requires, providing a few of the metrics, some baseline information, and the output is you get a rapid assessment of your current position and opportunity for improvement in your Procure-to-Pay process and system. So again, I think a tremendous value. There is a link included here. You can get it from the presentation or from our website. And again, get a very quick read, a barometer or a report card on where you are today with Procure-to-Pay, what the opportunity is to embark on a program similar to what Pamela's described, to really change that equation, to get users on board, to get procurement efficiency and visibility, to start thinking more strategically about this Procure-to-Pay process. So that we really appreciate everyone attending today. Make yourselves available or utilize this benchmarking tool that again, tremendous value and no investment, no risk on your part. And I want to thank Pamela as well for sharing her experience at Jawbone, and providing that best practice information that hopefully was very valuable for everyone today. So thank you much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.